Cannabis Common Sense, the show that tells the truth about marijuana and the politics behind its prohibition.
Hello and welcome to another exciting edition of Cannabis Common Sense. We have another great show for you tonight. Standing by in the wings, we are very proud to present Mark Shark, Quilt Man, and Tijuana. Welcome, guys. Thanks for coming back.
Hey, Paul.
Thank you, Paul.
How are you all doing tonight?
Wonderful.
Good, man.
Good. You'll be singing some tunes for us. Thank you. We have a short but sweet hemp news segment. Casper Leach is right here, ready to crack some jokes. Hopefully you'll find them funny. There were a few people last week who were offended by what you said, Casper, but we'll talk about that later.
Oh,
Imagine
if you don't
that.
offend somebody, you're not doing it right.
Probably so. But until we come back with our hemp news, here are the infamous dancing cannabis leaves.
I feel the force.
All right, our first story tonight is from the Rocky Mountain State. Colorado's monthly cannabis sales broke a record with their highest total yet, $117.4 million worth of flowers, edibles, and concentrates just sold in the month of April 2016. The Colorado State Department of Revenue reported that marijuana shops sold almost $76.6 million in recreational cannabis for the month of April, significantly passing the previous high water mark of $62.2 million for December 2015. In comparison, recreational sales increased more than 80% from $42.4 million in April 2015. Medical marijuana sales for the month also were going strong at $40.8 million, which is a 22% increase from the previous month. Colorado's record-setting sales also meant a healthy revenue payoff for the state. There are three different taxes on Colorado's recreational cannabis: the standard 2.9% sales tax, a special 10% sales tax, and a 15% excise tax on wholesale transfers, which is earmarked for school construction projects. The more than $5.5 million collected in excise tax is a monthly record from when recreational sales began in January 2014 and brings the yearly total to $16.7 million. Out in Chicago, Illinois, more than 9 in 10 pediatric oncology providers with opinions favor patients' access to cannabis therapy, according to survey data provided this week at the 2016 annual meeting of the American Society for Clinical Oncology. Investigators from various U.S. cancer treatment centers surveyed 654 pediatric oncology providers, including physicians and nurses, at 3 National Cancer Institute designated cancer centers in Illinois, Massachusetts, and Washington State. Over 300 providers, or 46%, completed the survey. Of those, 92% said they were willing to help pediatric cancer patients access medical marijuana, and just over 1/3, or 34%, acknowledged that cannabis therapy is appropriate in the early stages of cancer treatment, end quote. 30% of the respondents reported receiving requests from patients to their families to access medical marijuana therapy at least once per month. Overall, pediatric oncology providers hold predominantly favorable attitudes toward medical marijuana use in pediatric cancer patients, the authors concluded. Previous surveys of physicians and healthcare providers report similar attitudes. Survey results published in 2013 in the New England Journal of Medicine reported that 76% of respondents supported the use of cannabis therapy in the treatment of metastatic breast cancer. A 2014 poll of over 1,500 physicians commissioned by WebMD similarly reported that 82% of oncologists believe that marijuana treatment provides legitimate therapeutic benefits. Here in the Beaver State, county bans on licensed recreational marijuana businesses in Oregon could result in millions of dollars of lost economic activity, according to a new report. Marion County alone could lose $110 million in economic activity in 2016 as businesses go elsewhere because of its nonsensical ban. 19 Oregon counties and 86 cities have banned marijuana producers, processors, wholesalers, and retailers entirely. Oregon citizens voted at the ballot box to legalize marijuana via Measure 91 in 2014. State legislators allowed local municipalities to ban cannabis businesses if their voters opposed legalization. In counties with less than 55% rejecting legal sales, like Marion County, the bans are only temporary and must be put in by the voters. In counties which rejected legalization by more than 55%, local governments can ban cannabis businesses outright. Marion County, where our state capital, Salem, Oregon, is, enacted its marijuana moratorium in September 2015, though the city of Salem still allows cannabis businesses. County residents will have a chance to vote on that ban in November. Counties with cannabis moratoriums don't reap tax revenue from cannabis sales, which, ironically, partially fund law enforcement. They also lose out on economic investment and new jobs. Marion County Commissioner Kevin Cameron displayed his cluelessness, or maybe lack of caring, when asked about Whitney's estimate of economic losses. He said, quote, "He may be right about that. I don't know. Bo can supply all the numbers he wants, but I'm not going to sit here and talk about whether the moratorium's impacting Marion County because I don't have those numbers," end quote. He added that even if the ban affects job growth, quote, "that's okay with me," end quote. He added that enough marijuana is already being grown. So if you want a job, the government's not going to help. The U.S. National Libertarian Party presidential nominee, Gary Johnson, on Monday promised that he won't use marijuana if he's elected president in November. Johnson, who won the Libertarian nomination for the second time on May 29th, picked former Massachusetts Governor Bill Weld as his running mate. The candidate freely admitted in a Monday interview with The Hill, the Capitol Hill newspaper, that he used cannabis as recently as a month ago, but for some reason he promised he wouldn't use it if he's sworn into the Oval Office in 2017. Governor Johnson, a two-time Republican governor of New Mexico, said, quote, "The notion of getting that call at midnight or 2 o'clock, people need to know there's a firm voice on the other side," end quote, he said. Johnson said he hasn't touched alcohol for 30 years, but laughing his current presidential bid, he was CEO of the marijuana company Cannabis Sativa, Inc. in Colorado. He added that legalizing cannabis would lead to less substance abuse overall because people would find it to be a safer alternative than everything else out there, starting with alcohol. Although promising not to use it himself, Johnson said marijuana should be legalized. He said, quote, "Marijuana products on the medical side directly compete with legal painkillers and antidepressants that statistically kill 100,000 people a year. Marijuana products, not one documented death," end quote. Former New Mexico Governor Gary Johnson is the most pro-cannabis candidate, along with the Green Party nominee Jill Stein. Speaking of another former presidential candidate, Ohio Governor John Kasich on Wednesday signed House Bill 523 in Ohio into law, making Ohio the 25th medical marijuana state, not including the District of Columbia or D.C. Kasich's communications team announced the signing without any comment, simply including in a list of tougher bills the governor also signed on Wednesday. They said, quote, "This is a joyous day for thousands of Ohioans who finally will be able to access much needed medicine," end quote. As we continue this movement to bring medical marijuana to all Ohioans who need it today, we'll remember today is a huge step forward, end quote. The new law goes into effect 90 days after the bill is officially filed with the Ohio Secretary of State, making medical marijuana legal sometime in early September in the state of Ohio. Patients will then have an affirmative defense against prosecution for marijuana possession charges if they have a written authorization from their doctor to use marijuana in a form allowed under the law. Hey, there's Governor Kasich signing it. We're getting advanced here, like the real news. That's the end of our Hemp News segment for tonight. Standing by in the wings, we want to welcome back Quiltman, Tijuana, and Mark Shark. Welcome back.
Oh, thanks, Bob. We're going to do a poem that John Trudell wrote called Wild Seed.
All right.
Wild seed, life seeding life. Wild seed, life seeding life. And the earth is our mother, and the land is her flesh, and the water is her milk, and the oil is her blood. We are her children.
Thank you, gentlemen. She'll be back at the end of the show for one more.
You bet.
Thank you. All right. So, hey, Casper.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday, viewers. If you are watching us on the 10th of June, 2016, you can call us at that number there on your screen. It's 503-288-4442. That's 503-288-4442. We'd be happy to answer any questions you have about marijuana, cannabis, patient's use, industrial hemp. That's why we're here, to talk about cannabis common sense, isn't it, Casper?
It is, and it's a good thing you gave the date, because I was at home watching Cannabis Common Sense one day, and I called in to talk to you and me. And we didn't answer, and then when you said, oh, well, if you're watching, January 12th, it's like, oh, well, it's February. I should have known it was recorded. So.
That makes,
Well, I had
really
a question
makes
for
sense.
me, but that's all right.
You forgot it.
Yeah.
That doesn't surprise us. What did you think about tonight's news? Anything in there surprise you?
Well, I was surprised that the governor of Ohio turned around and said that medical marijuana is a groovy thing.
At least he signed it.
Yeah.
It's kind of a restrictive law, though. It says you only have an affirmative defense. Well, you know what an affirmative defense is? That means you get arrested, you go to court and say, but I have a doctor's note. I prefer a law where you don't get arrested to make it work, But it's better than nothing, I guess, But you got to have your doctor's note after you get arrested. You have to have it made out before you get arrested and to use it after you get arrested. Maybe you might find a smart cop that would let you go. But, that's always the toss of a dice.
I had a neighbor who had a firm on defense once, and he got sued until he cut it down.
I see.
The Fern on defense.
They didn't want that.
No.
Okay.
I really reached for that.
You know what? We have a little cartoon. It's called Casper Leach. No, we have another cartoon about hemp energy.
Really?
So we did.
Hemp energy cartoon?
Yeah, a 3-minute cartoon.
Was this one of those done in
about
the
hemp
50s
energy.
by Walt Disney and group?
I don't think it's a Disney cartoon.
Oh.
Are we ready to roll that? Here you go. We'll be back in 3
I love
minutes.
cartoons. Dude, this rocks.
What's up? It's me, your pal, Peace Bud. Today I would like to introduce to you the future of renewable energy sources for America and the planet. My friend, the cannabis plant. A great deal of propaganda has been created to slander this totally beneficial plant. But did you know that the evolution of human society has depended on this wonderful plant for centuries? Cannabis hemp has been used throughout history to make fabrics, rope, and paper. It is completely renewable, easy to propagate, and it produces high yields in almost any environment. Cannabis is the only plant that can support the energy needs of our economy. Did you know that our cars were originally intended to run on a cannabis-based fuel source called ethanol? Henry Ford's original Model T was built from plastics made out of hemp. The vehicle was to run on a hemp-based ethanol fuel, which was grown on Mr. Ford's property. He figured hemp would completely take care of his newly emerging automobile industry. But as the Industrial Revolution grew and new chemicals and mechanical processes became possible, other industries stepped in to dictate what the new resource for the 20th century would be. The Rockefellers worked hard to establish relationships with Middle Eastern oil monarchies, smudging the dream of ethanol. Combined with the DuPont's new chemical processes to create plastics from oil, paper from wood, and a new type of synthetic rope called nylon. And in 1938, by request of big oil companies such as the DuPonts and the Rockefellers, cannabis was outlawed in the United States. We now live in the outcome of the Industrial Revolution, and our machines have become reliant on oil. Now we have to reconfigure our world, or slip into darkness. Oil is an economy based on death. Its pursuit has caused nothing but wars and inequities, for the oil industry harvests the ancient remains of dead animals, while a fuel economy based on growing cannabis is one of life and creation. The situation our world is in because of oil is absurd. Join me in the new revolution of the 21st century. Legalize cannabis and create a new era of peace, prosperity, and renewable energy.
All right. Hey, look at those. We have some interesting hemp items. These are marijuana cigarettes for asthma. We'll show more of those in a moment. But we have a phone call, and we're happy to take it. If you want to call in, you can call that number there on your screen. It's 503-288-4442. We'll be happy to take your call, too. Hey, welcome to the show, caller. Is the caller there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Good. Welcome.
All right, thank you. I just wanted to tell you my story.
Okay.
I'm a 100% service-connected war veteran,
Uh-huh.
and I'm 72 years old.
Thank you for your service. So 72, you must have been like Vietnam.
Yeah, I was in Vietnam.
Yeah.
I was in a Jeep, and it got blown up with a mine.
Yikes.
So,
well, I know as a 100% service-connected veteran, you have very serious disabilities, and I want to thank you for your service.
oh, that's all right. I volunteered, no problem. But I suffer from extreme anxiety, and they were giving me a drug called clonazepam for anxiety.
Gosh. That has terrible side effects, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It can turn long-term memory loss,
Yeah.
And,
And they say that about marijuana with short-term. Well, long-term's worse, right?
Yeah, right. But my psychiatrist took me off of clonazepam, cut it way down. I still take a little bit of it still.
Was this a VA physician?
Yeah, VA up here on the hill.
On the Blue Hospital on the hill here in Portland.
Yeah. And I smoke cannabis. I have a medical card. But I used to get flashbacks at night. You know what a flashback is?
Sure. Yeah, you would remember these very traumatic incidents in Vietnam, right?
Yeah, right.
Like you were there, undergoing battle again.
Yeah, and so I suffer from PTSD, like a lot of us do. The guys in Korea and the guys in
Iraq,
Iraq and Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Anyway, I started smoking cannabis before I went to sleep, and it took that away, man. It took all that away.
Great.
And then this anxiety caused me extreme tension all the time. My neck and my back and everything, really tight. And so the cannabis relaxes me,
Yeah.
It just relaxes
I do
the hell
know.
out of me.
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
And I'm a
so,
disabled vet too. I'm certainly not a 100% disabled vet. I was in back when Jimmy Carter was the president, after Vietnam, before any of Reagan's mishaps. But fortunately, I don't have PTSD. But I can tell you, though, that cannabis definitely helps the pain associated with my service-connected disability. And when I smoke marijuana, I don't remember my dreams almost all the time. And when I go without marijuana for a couple days or longer, then I have vivid dreams after a few days of not using marijuana. So there's something about marijuana that represses and helps you erase these unwanted memories. And some people say that's a good thing because even if you don't have post-traumatic stress, you don't want to remember every face you saw driving down the road in the morning, and you need to erase a lot of the things in your memory. And cannabis definitely is somehow involved in that process.
Yeah, and a lot of us vets, I go to the VA a lot because, I'm 100% disabled and I have to see them a lot. I talk to the vets, a lot of the vets, and they all say the same thing as I do.
Can you get your VA doctors to recommend medical marijuana, or do you have to go outside the VA system to get your doctor's authorization?
Well, what they do is they put me down for post-traumatic stress, and then I have glaucoma too. And so
you're qualified a couple of ways.
But
I would bet that given your service-connected situation, that you also have some chronic pain issues.
Oh, constant, man.
Yeah, so you're using medical marijuana for a host of different conditions.
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
And what they do is, I can get my files from the records office there, and it shows, all this, and then I have to take it to a private doctor to get it. But, as long I just take that with them and show it to the doctor, and they say, okay.
I understand.
I just wanted to tell you, man.
Well, I'm glad you did. Thank you for calling in and sharing your story.
Okay. Well, like I say, I think it's a good program you guys got. And, I don't know if you saw that study in New Zealand. It was a longitudinal study for people smoking it over a long period. Longitudinal means over a long period of time, And they found that marijuana causes absolutely nothing. It causes no lung problems, no any problems at all.
Yeah, it's good for you.
It's not like cigarettes,
No, it's not. Cigarettes cause cancer. Marijuana stops it.
Yeah.
On one hand, the federal government says that the use of marijuana has no medical benefits and schedules it a Schedule I narcotic with no medicinal benefits, where cocaine is just Schedule II. But
they've got a patent on the darn thing, and they know that medication can be made from it, and they're going to capitalize on it in every way they can, restrict it, and make certain that it's difficult for you to get to unless you get a fat wallet. So
that's right. And,
I'm really upset about. Go ahead.
They've got it on number one list along with the heroin and all that shit.
Yeah.
And that's ridiculous, man. It's totally insane.
I mean, we know that almost all the things on their Schedule I list they say have no medical benefits, all have medical benefits, whether it be heroin. I mean, that's definitely a painkiller. It's not as strong as fentanyl, which killed that guy Prince. And LSD has medicinal benefits, especially in psychiatric cases.
Sure they do.
It's all just a lie. It's just a lie to protect certain moneyed interests.
And you're right, it does affect your long-term and short-term memory, because I can certainly tell you, I could not tell you the name of one president since the death of John F. Kennedy.
Yeah, well, I'm better than that, but yeah, it does, and like you know,
Block all the
during
bad things out, right?
during the Civil War, you know, the only drug they had to give those guys after they cut their legs and arms off was morphine.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Or a shot of whiskey.
yeah, whiskey or morphine. That's all they had.
Yeah.
And there were so many vets after the Civil War that were hooked on morphine and
Yeah.
heroin, you know, because
That's true.
you know they couldn't live without it.
And then a lot of these new synthetic things are a lot worse than heroin. So
Oh
Go
yeah,
figure.
they are. Sure they are. You know.
I want to thank you for your call and for your service, sir. Keep watching and call back in anytime and let us know what's going on.
All right. Well, I appreciate your program.
Thank you. We're glad to do it.
And you're right.
Okay.
Had it not
Good
been,
night.
had it not been for my marijuana use, I never would have forgotten Ishtar.
Okay. Warren Beatty would probably like that.
Yeah, well, not all my jokes are for today's generation.
Yeah, I guess you have to be old like me to remember that. I didn't see it, but I've heard about it. We have another caller. Let's take one more call, and then our musical guests are going to play a little interlude, and then we'll be back with more phone calls. But
You
we'll
doing
take
a
one more
duet with
caller.
Snoop Dogg?
Hello, caller.
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I have a question about marijuana and then also at hemp
Okay.
for a resident of Portland proper of what a person can grow in their own garden.
You can have 4 plants per household, and those can be flowering plants, 4 flowering plants. You can have 4 flowering plants per household, whether they're inside or outside, regardless of how many people are in there. If you don't have a medical card, every house can have 4 flowering plants, but you can have an unlimited number of non-flowering plants. You don't need even a license to have unlimited numbers of non-flowering plants, but you can only have 4 flowering ones. Now, if you're a medical patient, you can have 6 more flowering ones for a total of 10. And if you have 2 medical patients in the house, then you can have 6 plus 6 plus 4. So then
Okay.
16. So that's how it works.
And then for the hemp, if
Mhm.
hemp is grown for...
Yeah, you have to have a special permit to grow industrial hemp from the Oregon Department of Agriculture. I met a farmer at an event organized by Courtney Moran a few weeks ago who had just planted 29 acres of hemp out in Bend. In fact, this weekend at the Oregon Convention Center, there's the Oregon Hemp Expo and a Hemp History Week event organized by Courtney Moran. So just
That's
check
the
out
expo
the
on
Oregon
the
Hemp
island there?
Expo, and you can go down there and meet a lot of different people in the marijuana and hemp industry.
All right.
It's a free event, but you have to pay like $7 or $8 to park if you park in their parking lot.
Right. Okay, thanks a lot.
Hey, you're welcome. Thanks for your
Good
call.
That'd be a good name for a song, 4 flowering plants. Wouldn't it?
Okay, we're going to put you together with these guys.
Yeah, 4 flowering plants in my backyard.
And
I
I
want to grow some, but it's kind of hard. You know, if you want some,
He's
we'll
gonna
smoke
write a
them
song for you,
together.
right?
Just watch out for the sun because there's always better weather. 4 flowers in my backyard. Give me a
right.
copyright. Call Paul McCartney. Shit,
I
got
want
a hit.
to sincerely apologize for mispronouncing Tiwani's name. I had him rhyme with marijuana, Tijuana, but it's Tiwani. So, thank you. And Quilt Man and Mark Shark are ready to.
This is a song of Quilt's called Indian Girls.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. I like that. So that is Tiwani, Quiltman, and Mark Sharp. Hey, if you have a call or question about marijuana or cannabis for us tonight, you can call us at that number there on your screen. It's 503-288-4442. That's 503-288-4442. And so we're going to go through my little show and tell collection here. This is one of the more interesting things. You close in just a little bit, and then this is from Johnson & Johnson. It's a plaster of cannabis and aspirin, acylic acid and cannabis plaster from that baby shampoo company, Johnson & Johnson. And so this is about a 2-foot-long plaster of cannabis in a container. This is approximately from 1905. Now, right next to it, from about 1890, 15 years before that, is a product from Seabury & Johnson. Now, this is a predecessor of Johnson & Johnson. Before they kicked Seabury out, it was just Seabury & Johnson. And this is also cannabis indica and salicylic acid, or aspirin. So this is a combination, again, of those two. And this one is about 125 years old. When I open it up, inside, there is this plaster that is aspirin and cannabis, and with this backing. So you would put this on your skin, and you can see the crystals from the aspirin in there. You'd put this on your skin if you had an injury or a bruise or a muscle pull, and it would help with the pain, the skin disease. But again, this is from Seabury & Johnson. Here's something we showed just a moment ago. This one's pretty darn interesting if you ask me. This is from Toronto, Canada. It is asthma cigarettes, marijuana asthma cigarettes from Kellogg. You can see, since it's from Canada, it's got the French version on the side. And you can see a little guy in here inhaling the cannabis vapors. That's pretty nifty, isn't it?
Tiny, aren't they?
They're tiny. You just needed a little tiny cigarette for that stuff. This one is also pretty neat. This is from Eli Lilly, and it's a powdered extract of cannabis. You can see it says number 28. They had about 20 different cannabis products. This one was powdered hashish, folks. This is a little jar, 1 ounce of powdered hashish.
Sniff it or put it on your cereal?
It says it's an exhilarant, an antispasmodic, and powerful narcotic. It's from Indianapolis, Indiana, your old stomping ground,
but
bro.
It doesn't say how to consume it?
It doesn't say. It doesn't say.
I wouldn't know what to do. Would you put it on like your strawberries?
Put it in your,
or would you
I think that
like
might
cocaine?
work. I think that might work. Then right here, we have a bottle of Marinol. It's got a few Marinol capsules in there. These things are really expensive. They're like $15 a pill.
Good
Here
Lord.
is a 1970 era experimental bottle of Marinol. Before they legalized Marinol, which is synthetic THC suspended in oil, sesame oil, this was an experimental bottle before they gave it a branded name. This is a full bottle of mentholated cough balsam. It's for coughs, colds, spasmodic croup, bronchitis, and catarrh, and other diseases of the air passages.
Wow, that's
This
awesome,
one
balsam.
is Bliss's native balsam for coughs and colds. Contains 1/2 gram of cannabis indica to the ounce, with other valuable ingredients for coughs, colds, bronchitis, and only 2% alcohol. From Alonzo O. Bliss Company in Washington, D.C. Here is a hypno-sedative bottle. Close in just a little bit, hypno-sedative bottle. And then next to it, we have, last but not least, one of my favorites is this Eli Lilly bottle, because it has 3 labels. And I really like they've got the label that shows the Indiana factory there. They've got their other label with the background picture, and they have this nifty label, and it's the label that makes it one of my most favorite parts. While you're looking at these other things, I'm going to read what it says on this label, because it's kind of cool. It says antispasmodic, analgesic, anesthetic, narcotic, aphrodisiac, folks. Specifically recommended in spasmodic and painful afflictions for preventing rather than arresting migraines. This is the one I like the best. Almost a specific in that form of insanity peculiar to women, caused by mental worry or moral shock. I like that. It is a hypnotic and delirium tremens, so if you're an alcoholic with delirium tremens coming off alcohol, this was the stuff to help you. Its anodyne power is marked in chronic metritis and dysmenorrhea, great for menstrual cramps. Used with excellent results in habituates of opium, chloroform, and cocaine. In hysterical cases not calmed by chloral or opium, it acts especially well. So
I thought you were going to say with the 3 labels on there, there's a "Have you seen me? I'm missing" picture of Willie Nelson on it.
yeah, missing child, maybe.
And Willie's old enough to be on there.
You're a funny guy. You know what? We have a video. Do we have a call? When we have a call, then we have a video. So let's take the call first. Welcome to the show, caller. Hello, caller.
Hello?
Yes. We have a little
Yes,
6-second delay, so listen to your phone, not the TV.
Don't forget to wave back. I'm watching.
I am.
Welcome. Do you have a question, comment, or?
Well, I have a question.
Okay.
I have never taken any kind of drugs or marijuana or anything.
Oh, I'm
And
sorry.
I started taking the cookies,
Yeah.
and I got what I'm taking now of the cookies. It's called Spot.
Uh-huh.
Baked in Seattle. It's 10 milligrams.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but I only take a quarter of it.
So you're taking about 2.5 milligrams. That's a very small dose.
Yeah, but it works.
It works for you. And what is the
Yeah,
condition
now I
it helps
tried
you with?
another one, and it was from another company, and it was a brownie, and I took a small bit of that. Well, I looped out for about 15 hours.
It was a little too strong.
Oh, boy.
Some of them can last a long time. So how does the cannabis help you, ma'am?
Well, I have 4 different kinds of arthritis. I have glaucoma. I have starting to get macular degeneration, diabetes, and maybe another few things. But generally, I'm very healthy because I take really good care of myself.
Yeah.
But it's the arthritis that really gets me in the back.
I can feel my arthritis in my knee from my disabling veteran's injury right now, and it hurts. So I know what you mean.
Well, mine was, I was working on a cement floor for years and years, lifting heavy things, and I only weigh 105 pounds, so.
You're a tiny thing.
Yeah, but anyway, this one is working really good. But my question is, I live in Washington.
Yeah,
so I have to buy it, at
the recreational
shop
store
and pay the regular price.
Right,
Now,
you
I
can't
asked
grow your
my
own in Washington unless you have a medical permit.
Yeah, but how do you go about getting that?
Well, you've got to get medical records and go to a doctor. And so there's a lot of different ways to do it. There's one avenue perhaps, but there's you've got to have a doctor who will sign the permit to be able to get your medical marijuana permit.
And that has to be a doctor in Oregon?
No. If you're in Washington and you want to grow at your home in Washington, it has to be a Washington doctor, a Washington naturopath, or a Washington nurse practitioner. So any of those 3 can write a recommendation for medical marijuana.
Okay. Well, she never told me that. I have my whole medical records.
Uh-huh.
And
We'll see
He
that
even
number
wrote on
there.
it, you know,
It's
you know.
503-235-4606. Give us a
Pardon me?
call at 503-235-4606. We have a physician referral service, and we'd be happy to help you find a doctor.
Okay, 235, and what was the last?
4606. 503-235-4606. That's our number at Campaign for the Restoration and Regulation of Hemp, our political committee, and we'd be happy to help you.
Yeah, okay, because it's really expensive, you know.
It is, it is.
I'm on a fixed income, and it's just
It shouldn't
really
be expensive because this stuff grows on trees. It's just the weird regulations, the limits, the taxes. You know, people who are using cannabis medicinally should not be taxed, you know,
I know,
like you,
I know.
you know.
Even Andrew Rosenthal
Shouldn't be
pointed out
taxed.
They don't tax aspirin.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
thank you. I'll give them a call.
Very good. Thank you. Okay. Have a good night. And if you have a question or comment for us, you can call us at that number there on your screen. Now, I want to go back to the Flame of Freedom. This is our hemp Flame of Freedom. This is hemp oil. Here's a little jar of hemp oil. We have a hemp twine wick in there, and we took it out of this hemp twine ball, and we poured some hemp oil in there, hemp seed oil made from the seeds of the marijuana plant, and we lit it. And you can see it is what they used to call an illuminant. And long before they used whale oil, they were using hemp seed oil throughout Asia. And so this is the most productive source of fuel on this planet. And this is the real reason marijuana is illegal. It's not illegal because of the drug. That's always just been a smokescreen. Pardon the pun. A smokescreen. It's about money and power and the further centralization of economic and political control. Because anything you can make from petroleum, you can make from hemp seed oil. Only hemp seed oil products are better and non-toxic. So imagine any of those oil spills. There was just a couple big ones by Shell down in the Gulf of Mexico just last week. If that had been hemp seed oil instead of petroleum, it would have been a nutritious food for the animals to clean off their feathers, or it wouldn't have been toxic the way petroleum is. So hemp seed oil has always been, and marijuana prohibition has always been, about energy and money and power. And unfortunately, those are things that mislead many of those folks out there.
That could be like a little song. Anything petroleum can do, hemp
can do better. I like that.
Yeah, there you go.
We got to work with Quilt and Mark and come up with some. Well, I don't know about that. Now, if you have a question or comment for us tonight, you can call us there at that number, 503-288-4442. We're down to about 15 minutes left, and we've got another caller. Welcome to the show, caller.
Hello,
caller.
Hello?
Hello.
Hi.
Yes,
How are
we
you?
Are you?
He is. I'll be after the show.
All right. I am. Are you?
Listen to your phone because there's a 6-second delay on the television.
I am. I've got
okay.
my TV muted.
Oh, good. Good.
Okay.
Do you have a question or comment for us?
Question.
Okay.
I know it helps glaucoma.
Yeah.
How about macular degeneration?
You know, I do not know of any specific help on that. I mean, it would help with the pain involved in that. What it does with glaucoma is it lowers intraocular pressure. So if you have slightly elevated or greatly elevated intraocular pressure, then that is what cannabis does, is it lowers that pressure. I'm not sure whether that helps macular degeneration. Now, there are some things that do help macular degeneration. Resveratrol, which is an extract from red grape skins. Resveratrol is a very powerful non-drug nutraceutical compound that not only helps macular degeneration, it's something that everybody should take. So I recommend resveratrol.
But when you take it, can you say it 10 times real fast?
I can. I can. Resveratrol. That's not fast,
Yeah,
but I
but
want
you
you to
know
get
it.
the whole
Well,
thing.
okay.
Resveratrol, resveratrol, resveratrol. Okay, 3 times at least. But yeah,
Okay.
I don't know if cannabis will help it. It can hurt. I can tell you that much. But I would recommend resveratrol myself. Look it up.
Okay, will do. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I take resveratrol twice a day for 10 years now. And I'm doing fine. Look at me.
Cool.
But we have a video about hemp, and we'll be back in just a few minutes. So scope this out.
Henry Ford's first Model T was built to run on hemp gasoline, and the car itself was constructed from hemp. On his large estate, Ford was photographed among his hemp fields. The car, grown from the soil, had hemp plastic panels whose impact strength was 10 times stronger than steel. Henry Ford ran 40,000 vehicles on hemp fuel from only 10,000 acres. The emissions are what you exhale, and the next year's crop reconverts it back into oxygen. That's a natural cycle fuel. We think that our ethanol and biofuels and flex fuel systems are all the cutting edge, but biofuel development, of course, is nothing new. Way back in the 1930s, Henry Ford was hard at work in the alternative fuel sector, and in 1941 he constructed a hemp-fueled and hemp-bodied prototype car. The plastic body panels were composed of 70% cellulose fibers, including industrial strength, mixed with a resin binder, and apparently they were pretty sturdy. A guy beats on the trunk with an axe and it fails to leave a mark. Industrial hemp won't make you high. It has no THC in it, but its association with marijuana has historically been a major legal stumbling block. There's some of you that think I'm full of shit, but the actual footage of 1941 should be proof enough for you.
Amongst the thousands of products made from hemp, one of the most extraordinary is Henry Ford's plastic car. Built in 1941, it contained cellulose fibers derived from hemp, sisal, and wheat straw. The plastic was lighter than steel, yet could withstand 10 times the impact without denting.
Hemp is an alternative to petroleum. Hemp grows like mad from border to border in America, so shortages are very unlikely, and unlike petroleum, unless we run out of soil, hemp is renewable. Growing and harvesting the stuff has much less environmental impact than procuring oil. Hemp fuel is biodegradable, so oil spills become fertilizer and no eco-catastrophes. Hemp fuel does not contribute to sulfur dioxide air poisoning. Other noxious emissions like carbon monoxide and hydrocarbons are radically slashed by using biodiesel. Hemp fuel is non-toxic and only a mild skin irritant. Anybody who's ever cleaned out an old carburetor with gasoline can confirm the same is not true for petroleum. Growing hemp for fuel would be tremendous boom for American farmers and the agricultural industry, as opposed to what people like Bush have to say about it. And that's why hemp might not go anywhere as a fuel alternative. Oil interests are big and dominate likewise into politics. Selling any man on the idea that will cost him more than he'll benefit requires an amazingly skilled orator or a gun. Unfortunately, unless you're the federal government, gunpoint conversions are usually illegal. So PR is the best bet now. There are many people working hard on this front, including the Hemp Car and the Intrepid crew. Currently grinding up for the Trans-American Tour, the Hemp Car plans to spread the good word of hemp fuel viability at stops in both the US and Canada. For whatever good it will do, they should make sure to stop in Washington. The current oil crisis of our nation's dependency and sometimes pretty sickening foreign sources might find a new chief executive with an open mind to fuel sources other than Texas tea, regardless of his own oilty bank accounts. Of course, hemp fuel may not take off. It might dry up like those hemp crops left unattended after the feds banned their cultivation in the 1930s. One way or the other, we should consider freeing up the market to innovative solutions with alternative fuels like hemp seed oil. It couldn't hurt, and it stands the chance to help. In doing so, when Henry Ford told the New York Times reporter that ethanol alcohol was the fuel of the future in 1925, he was expressing an opinion that was widely shared in the automotive industry. The fuel of the future is going to come from the fruit that shumach out of the road, or from apples, weeds, sawdust, almost anything, he said. There is fuel in every bit of vegetable matter that can be fermented. There's enough alcohol in 1 year's yield of an acre of potatoes to drive the machinery necessary to cultivate the fields for hundreds of years. Ford recognized the utility of the hemp plant.
Henry Ford, he was using hemp for his fuel, for his lubricant, and hemp fibers along with sisal and hemp seed oil for the composite paneling. He was way ahead of his time, at least in that regard.
Wasn't that a pretty car, too? I mean, that was really nicely built. That would have been a good seller.
Yeah, that Model T, it did pretty well, I hear. They transformed the American economy.
But instead, we have the joys of handing our next generation a polluted planet because of the greedy people from the generation before us.
Indeed, indeed. So hopefully we can replace a lot of petroleum with hemp. You know, I've done the calculations, and high THC cannabis produces 20 to 30 times more seed oil than low THC cannabis.
Cool.
And so we only need about 10% of our land currently used by agriculture on Earth to supply all of the oil for fuel. It would completely replace petroleum with about 10% of the land used by agriculture today, and the byproduct would be fiber, which would stop deforestation, and food from the seed after you press the oil out. So we'd wipe out world hunger and stop the global warming. So hemp is the answer, and that's one of the things we are most anxious. Now that we have legal marijuana, we need to allow our farmers to grow high THC cannabis for fuel. And that's why we still have these ridiculous, overburdensome regulations, because they don't want us to use high THC cannabis for fuel. And so when we do, instead of all of our money going to Exxon and Mobil and Dutch Shell and BP and the Nigerian despots and the Saudi sheiks and the frackers and all of that petrochemical poison, it will go to our farmers, and our farmers will be making all of that money from energy, the world's largest industry. And instead of the money going into those big corporations' secret bank accounts to fund political activity to control the world and drive us all into wars for oil, it will go to our farmers and our communities, and instead of this further centralization of wealth, we'll see the decentralization of wealth. And that's the main thing we want for the story. Casper, you want to plug your radio thing?
I do. We've got the network flying again. I have become the webmaster, and I can tell you it wasn't as hard to learn as I thought it would be. So if someone tells you there's magic to being a webmaster, go to YouTube, watch a few videos. You'll learn it. Come to timeforhemp.com. Make it a point to check us out. Share us with your friends. New content back up on the network next week. And remember, the next time you hear me, you'll know that it's timeforhemp.com.
Okay. You know, if you want to get involved in the movement to end marijuana prohibition, in our work to restore industrial hemp, call us at that number there on your screen, 503-235-4606. That's 503-235-4606. We're going to go out another great song by Quiltman Tiwani and Mark Shark. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming in. Thank you, Casper. Thank you, viewers. Tune in next week and help us restore hemp.
All right, this is another of John Trudell's poems. It's called Johnny and Joe. Johnny and Joe out behind the back door, drinking from a brown paper bag. True stories, they be telling their lives, talking about times of love and war. Two alley cats passing some time.
All right. Thank you, folks. Hey, thank you. So, and thank you, viewers. That's our our Cannabis Common Sense tonight. Thank you. Good night. Come back to us. Barbara Lewis. Hare Krishna Beauregard.